April 4th meeting of the Metro Council Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I do detect a quorum, and we will begin tonight with our consent agenda, and I will go through that. I'll start with the resolutions, and I'll go through them by number right now. If anything needs to be pulled, let me know. If not, I'll read the captions, and then you'll still have another opportunity at that point. RS 2023-2063 Allen and other sponsors extends the provisions of Chapter 5.11 of the Metro Code as enacted under Ordinance Number BL 2021-972. RS 2023-2094 Roten and other sponsors authorizes the Director of Public Property to transfer the state of Tennessee a temporary construction easement over a portion of property owned by the Metropolitan government located within or adjacent to Broadway Avenue, Highway 70. RS 2023-2095 Withers and other sponsors authorizes MCBC Downtown LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 104 Representative John Lewis Way South. RS 2023-2096 Roten and other sponsors approves a participation agreement between the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewage Services and MAPCO Express Incorporated to provide improved public sanitary sewer service through the construction of an improved stormwater system. That's all I have. Councilmember Allen, would you like to pull the first one?
2094.
2094. Any others need to come off? All right, we will pull 2094. All others, any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Now we're on to RS 2023-2094. Authorize the Director of Public Policy or Public Property to transfer to the state of Tennessee a temporary construction easement over a portion of property owned by the Metropolitan government located within or adjacent to Broadway Avenue, Highway 70. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pulled this one just because I wanted to make sure we were through with the discussion about if the design of this bridge replacing the old Broadway Bridge was compatible with the historic nature of Union Station that it ties into. And would just, I don't know if there's anybody here from TDOT.
I'll go to Mr. Freeze.
Thank you.
Director Freeze, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Is it coming through? Okay.
Just bring it up a little closer.
Great question, council members. So they have worked in the current design. The actual railing of the design matches what the original historic railing looks like as far as the forming of that. So they've actually done quite a bit over the last couple of months, making sure it fits into that. So it does match the original. Many years ago, the original, like 70 years ago, that rail that was actually present. So it matches that scheme and the form.
And are there renderings of that available? Is what I see on the TDOT site that shows, I mean, what you notice is the metal screen that's similar to the 28th Avenue connector, but it's hard to tell what the parapet underneath actually looks like. Where can I see that?
I can get you that. That is available online, but I can get you a direct image of that rendering.
Great. Okay, if you could do that before the meeting starts, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Councilmember Allen. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to reiterate that this is a gateway infrastructure project, and we're not, with TDOT, I guess, primarily responsible for design. We're not doing gateway level design on this. I do hope that this is a template that we can revisit. I know one of the comments from TDOT was that Metro had not really revised our infrastructure elsewhere along the corridor to provide a connector to that template. I hope that's something we can also get right. But we are building a backward-looking bridge design here rather than one that invites people into downtown in an area that is increasingly going to become a pedestrian-oriented district with residential developments occurring on both sides of both the interstate and the rail gulch. And I think it's imperative that we reserve our right in the future to put on the surface of this bridge accommodations for people arriving by foot, by scooter, bike, however they choose to, and certainly transit. And we're not getting there yet. I hope we get there in a next pass at this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Go ahead, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, that's a great question and comment. So we are working with TDOT. We do see this as a pilot for future beautification of the structure. They have worked with us to actually provide a planting strip, and 2 foot additional on the sidewalk to be a little bit more accommodating. We're going to push a little bit further too in the future with the designs, but we do see it as a pilot for future opportunities, or a pallet. Excuse me, I said pilot. A pallet for future opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the resolution? Any opposed? Councilmember Allen is abstaining. Everyone else votes in the affirmative. All right. We will now move to the consent agenda with bills on second reading. I will hold 1741 to the end. And I'll go through these by number. Bill 2023-1784, 1785, 1786, 1787, 1788, 1789, 1790, 1791, and 1792. Any of those need to come off? All right, I'll go through the captions very quickly. Bill 2023-1784, O'Connell and other sponsors approves a participation agreement and temporary construction easement between the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation and 1000 2nd Avenue North, LP, for improvements within a portion of the Greenway. Bill 2023-1785, O'Connell and other sponsors authorizes CB Ragland Company to install, construct, and maintain aerial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 118 12th Avenue South. Bill 2023-1786, Virtue and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan government to accept a new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for the property located at 2239 Edge Lake Drive. BL 2023-1787, Withers and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan government to accept the new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 2 properties located at 4927 Buena Vista Pike and Buena Vista Pike unnumbered. BL 2023-1788, Sledge and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan government to abandon existing sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements for property located at 155 Lafayette Street, excuse me. BL 2023-1789, Taylor and other sponsors authorizes the Metropolitan government to abandon existing sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements, and to accept new sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 5 properties located at 41st Avenue North, Clifton Avenue, and Indiana Avenue. BL 2023-1790, Toombs and other sponsors authorizes the Metropolitan government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 3 properties located at 839 West Trinity Lane and West Trinity Lane unnumbered. BL 2023-1791, Sledge and other sponsors authorize the Metropolitan government to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assembly and easement, and to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and fire hydrant assembly for property located at 2212 12th Avenue South. BL 2023-1792, Withers and other sponsors authorizes the Metropolitan government to accept new public water main and fire hydrant assembly for property located at 1620 Corporate Place. That's the end. Does anything need to come off? Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. We'll now move to BL 2023-1741, Withers and other sponsors. And before I read the caption, I just want to let everybody know this was, there are a number of amendments. We will consider all these amendments at this committee meeting as we did at Budget Committee last night. There was a robust discussion on the floor at Budget Committee. Many of you here were at that meeting and participated in it. I would ask that anything that was stated by you last night, it's not necessary to repeat it here, and I would try to give deference to those who weren't at the meeting last night. And if you have anything new, obviously that's what we're here for, but we'll try to get through this so we can get to our meeting, our main council meeting. BL 2023-1741, Withers and other sponsors. Authorizes Metropolitan Government's execution and delivery of an intergovernmental project agreement with the Sports Authority relating to the development and funding of a new enclosed stadium, designating a geographic area within which 50% of state and local option sales taxes will be allocated to fund capital projects at the stadium or any on-site or off-site infrastructure necessary for the operation thereof. Approving the issuance of one or more series of public facility revenue bonds by the Sports Authority to finance a portion of the cost related to the construction of the enclosed stadium. Authorizing the use and pledge of certain of the Metropolitan Government's revenue as security for the bonds. Authorizing the acquisition of the stadium campus from the Sports Authority and the lease of the new stadium site to the Sports Authority. Authorizing Metropolitan Government's execution and delivery of a site coordination agreement relating to the interaction between the operations of the stadium and the development within certain areas around the stadium, and authorizing the defeasance of a portion of the Metropolitan Government's general obligation bonds issued to fund the acquisition of the campus on which the stadium is located. Do I have a motion? Moved and properly seconded. We will start with amendments. Councilman Withers, I believe you've got amendment number 1. Oh, it would help if I find you.
Thank you
Sorry
so
about
much.
that.
Thank you so much, Chair Pulley. I'd like to, not on the committee, but if a member of the committee would move Amendment 1.
Yeah, we do need to move his amendment. All right, it's moved and properly seconded. Councilman Withers.
I would succinctly describe this as a housekeeping amendment that incorporates some changes to documents that were mutually agreed upon since the initial term sheet was discussed.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on amendment number 1? Seeing none, all in favor? Yeah. Any opposed? All right, we recommend approval. Amendment number 2, I do not see Councilman Taylor. Does anyone want to move this amendment? Moved and properly seconded. Is there someone here who can speak to that amendment? Councilmember Hurt?
Well, I will speak to it in terms of the TSU portion. I think maybe Councilmember Mendez may be able to speak to the actual increase in the fees that he's seeking and the escalation of it up to 10%. But I can speak on the TSU portion as I have received a letter from Dr. Glover at TSU.
All right. Do you want to, or should I kick it to the administration? Go ahead. Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks. The discussion on this one was a little confusing yesterday, and you got to think about ticket tax and rent as separate things. This amendment's not about ticket tax. There's always been a ticket tax for the last decade. There's been a ticket tax, and there's going to keep being a ticket tax of $3 a ticket. That remains unchanged. Got nothing to do with this amendment. The new deal, as drafted, has an additional rent charged to the team equal to $3 for every ticket sold at the new stadium. And Councilmember Taylor's amendment changes, instead of $3 per ticket in rent, it's 3% of the ticket price, 3% instead of $3, and it escalates over time. And that's the difference between what he's proposed and what's in the documents as drafted.
Thank you, Councilmember Mendez. Any discussion on this amendment? Councilmember Nash.
I have to speak against the amendment. It seems to me that's an awfully large increase. And I think, from what I understand, this has been well negotiated. The Titans and all of the parties involved in those negotiations are satisfied that the current formula they have is more than acceptable. And so I speak against the motion or the amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. Any other discussion? Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually fairly similar to one of the amendments to the framework I proposed, and I think from the standpoint of improving this deal for taxpayers, it's honestly a great idea to ensure that as much of the funding for the stadium itself come from the users of the stadium. This moves us in the direction of the very successful deal negotiated with the Nashville Predators. I encourage colleagues to support.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Any other discussion? Councilmember Allen?
Maybe I just need to clarify something. My understanding is this still takes $3 and puts it into where the rent was going to go, which is into the maintenance fund, and then the remainder of it goes back to the general fund, so that it's actually, that part is not funding the stadium. It's actually now making the tourist pay into the general fund. And part of what, the way I've framed this in my mind is we're going to this lease as opposed to the old lease where our property tax dollars are helping pay for a stadium that people may not necessarily be part of. We are now making the owners and the Sports Authority revenues, which are mostly fans and tourists, pay for that. Now we've added to that, those fans are also, in addition to paying for the stadium, which I think is right, they're now paying into the general fund, which is consistent with what we've heard at many public meetings, that people want to know how this is going to benefit the general public. So I appreciate the fact that it does that piece of it, but I just want to be clear that we understand that we're taking what was a $3 payment and making it what could be, depending on the price of the ticket, significantly higher, and that most of it is now going back into the general fund. And I would agree with other council members that we'd already negotiated that piece of it, and
you said it. You had a nice little soundbite for that last night, the way you were describing.
Sorry, I wasn't
today.
supposed to talk again. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. But I understand it the same way. Councilmember Hurd.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And to add to that, I did speak with Dr. Glover last night, and subsequent to that, she provided a letter saying that she was very much in favor of this, and she was not asking for anything differently than what had been negotiated. And it wasn't clear in the amendment about TSU or anything that may be affiliated with TSU as it relates to NFL as well. So I too am standing in against the amendment.
Can you clarify? So she's in favor of this, meaning the amendment, or
being against the amendment?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I think you meant. Okay, thank you for that. Any other discussion? Councilmember Swope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This might be a question for legal, but would or could the state construe this as an additional tax that we as a city are imposing upon a deal that's taken a year and a half to put together?
The way that this is drafted, it is intended to be rent. It would amend the rent section and the calculation for the rent that the Titans are paying. So to the extent that the state may construe something, they could potentially also construe the rent payment to be an additional tax if that were the case.
Okay, I appreciate that. And my second question, I'm just going to throw some raw numbers out here, because if you go see Garth Brooks at the stadium, tickets are $300. So what we're talking about doing is adding an additional $9 onto that ticket. Is that correct? Above and beyond the current deal that's been negotiated.
Percent of.
So it's 6 more. So in other words, it's an additional $18 per ticket. It's $300 at 3%. And I go up to 10%. I gotta be honest with you. If I'm on the other side of this negotiation, that's a deal killer. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Swope. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask Ms. Darby to please speak more loudly into the mic, please. I'm having difficulty hearing her, and I imagine the public may be as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we'll take a vote we're voting on amendment number 2, which is Councilmember Taylor's. All in favor? Would you raise your hands so we can count? We got 2 in favor. All against? 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7.
I thought I had 8.
Is that what you got?
I have 8.
You had 8? Okay, all right. That's good with me. All right.
And 1 non.
We have
That leaves,
2 in favor, 8 against, are the numbers that I have,
and I think one not voting. We have
and 1 not voting. All right, so we do not recommend that for approval. We've got amendment number 3. Can I have that moved by the committee? All right, moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks, Chair. And just as a brief introduction, I've handled my comments on these documents the same way I have on every deal since we started in 2015. I gave a set of comments just directly to legal almost 2.5 weeks ago. Most of the changes that were in the amendments this week are a result of my comments from several weeks ago. Of the comments that they did not accept for the amendment that's already in the package, I submitted additional amendments. 2 of them have been accepted by the administration. After the conversation last night with Budget and Finance, I'm dropping another 7 of them. So we're getting there. And I'll keep my descriptions as brief as possible because I know that it was discussed at length yesterday. The last thing before I start going, I want to make sure that we confirm. I understand that this is, Director Darby, not amendable on third reading.
That's correct.
All right, so this is the time. If I'm ever going to seek amendments, this is the time. So I'm sorry if it takes a while to go through.
Completely.
All right, so amendment number 3 is designed, what it says is that if the state changes the makeup of the sports authority between now and the time that bonds are issued, we won't issue bonds. And that is to keep us from building a $2 billion asset with our authority, only to have part or all of the authority seats, the appointment power taken away. So that's the amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Mendez. Any discussion, Councilmember Roten?
Just so everybody knows, last I saw that's moving through and what's probably going to be the final amendment is Metro, mayor would pick 7, state would pick 6, both the speakers and the governor would pick 2 apiece, and it would not go into effect until July 1 of 24. So that's the current status, and it's my understanding that's the bill that's going to be moving through. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Roten. Any other discussion? Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just can't imagine this body approving a deal like this without this amendment while our authority is literally in flux and we're losing this much control over an entity that issues bonds in our names as Metro taxpayer. I would strongly encourage colleagues to support.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Councilmember Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Without going too far off the topic of this particular amendment, this whole theme of continuing to try and play chicken with the train and play checkers with the legislature, y'all, they're playing chess, and they always will. And they will always have the upper hand in this state, and we can either try and do our best to work with them, or we can keep on pissing them off and doing stuff like this. And, let's throw some red meat out to, some of our base and stuff. But at some point, we have to grow up, and we have to learn to legislate by the conditions that we are operating in, not those that are ideologically, ideal. This is a bad amendment, and I would encourage my colleagues to vote no. Thank you.
Councilmember Nash.
I would also ask my colleagues to vote against this amendment. I don't necessarily like the bill that's coming, but it does leave the majority of the members being Metro appointees, mayoral appointees. And the state is a partner in this building of the stadium, $500 million worth too. So they've got an interest in making sure this is a successful plan. And the safeguard, I think in regard to the state really, is the safeguard where if they don't come up with the $500 million, the deal's done. That's the safeguard we need, not this bill. And I think this just adds a little more confusion and pokes the bear a little bit more when we don't need to.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. I think I just fundamentally reject the premise of, with all due respect, Councilman Young and Councilman Nash's position, whether it's chess, checkers, chicken, the bear, whatever that may be. This is a fiscal prudence measure. The Sports Authority is the primary engagement point of this deal for many, many years to come. And the lobbyists advancing this package, this deal, can tell us that, they have it on good authority based on the amendments that Mr. Roten has shared with us, that now, we have a one-member majority to this authority. But what's to say after we pass this that changes again? I just think it is conservative, prudent, fiscally well-minded to put this marker down, because if we are going to proceed with this, we, the city, needs to have primary control of our sports authority, and it's not showing any disrespect to the state to retain that majority authority. And so I think this is appropriate, and I would encourage colleagues to please support it.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I stated last night, I do not like the bully approach that the state is playing with us. I don't like the threats that have been made, and there are many, many things that they've done that I do not like, and I stand strong in that. But I do believe that one of the things that we need to do is try to find some common ground, and this perhaps will be it. I appreciate what Councilmember Mendez and Councilmember O'Connell and Councilmember Henderson all have said. But just to the point that it could change with this one individual, it could change all of those individuals if it's passed. So we don't know where it will stop, where it will begin, or when it will end. But we can send out an olive branch to say, on this, we are going to try to work with you. Now, the onus will be on them if it goes south, should I say further south, Jim Crow South. But I just believe that this is an opportunity that we should take and try to make it work for all of us.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not an opportunity. This is a takeover. And I think we should recognize it as such and act appropriately. This is an opportunity to negotiate with the leverage we have, and I think we should do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other discussion? Councilmember Mendez, you. All right. Seeing none, we will vote on the amendment now. So if you'll raise your hands, all in favor. Got it. All right. Any opposed? Down. All right. Thank you. We have, what's the number? 4 in favor. How many against? 7 against. All right. 4 in favor, 7 against, 1 not voting. All right. Now we'll move to amendment number 4. Can somebody on the committee please move that amendment? All right. Moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Mendez.
With this one, I was seeking to get a public acknowledgement from TSU that they were comfortable or not. Now that they've given a public acknowledgement, I'm not pursuing this one. So we can move on. I'm not going to move this one at the meeting tonight.
Okay. Whoever moved this, would you like to withdraw that amendment? Okay. We can withdraw that.
And if I may, Chair, on number 5, I'm not going to move that one because Councilmember Hurt has her late file that addresses the same topic.
All right. Which, no, do you want to move number 6? Okay. Could we have a member of the committee move number 6? Moved properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
This one also relates to the possibility of the Sports Authority appointment being taken over. This would make it so the Sports Authority couldn't put any liens or encumbrances on the stadium assets, except as already is in the agreement, without council approval.
Any discussion on amendment number 6? Seeing none, if you'll raise your hands if you're in favor of this amendment. Got it. 3. Raise your hands if you are opposed to this amendment. 2, 3, 4. All right. Amendment fails. What's the vote? I believe 4 in favor, 8 against. Excuse me. You got 3 in favor? Okay. 3 in favor, 8 against. 1 not voting. All right. You going to move? Somebody would move amendment number 7. Moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
This one would, in the development agreement, insert in 2 places that certain changes would have to be approved by the council rather than just the Sports Authority.
Any discussion on Amendment 7? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hands. All right, I see 3 in favor. All opposed, raise your hands. Got it. I'm 7. So 3 in favor, 7 against, 2 not voting. Amendment number 8. Okay, can we move amendment number 8? Moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
This one relates to gambling. The current lease as drafted says that if the state were, it expressly talks about what happens if gambling is legalized in the state of Tennessee more than it is now. And if it is, gambling is extended by the state, then it would be up to the team to decide whether the building would be used for gambling purposes. And the amendment would make it so the council would have to approve any gambling uses that were created as new by state law.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion? Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to encourage colleagues to support this amendment. I think we have seen in the state movement on this, whether it be sports betting and sports gambling. We see in a lot of these kind of stadium associated entertainment districts that really aren't, frankly, neighborhoods, that uses like this are popular, depending on what the various state authorities are. I think Nashvillians have a lot of concerns, whether it be around, the Super Bowl or big events, or that, this will just become kind of entertainment district east. And so that same concern, I think, that citizens have about that area is only compounded if we have public gambling and casinos and so forth. So all this is just a prudence measure saying that, if that were to be the case in state law in the future, that would need to come before us or this body as elected representatives. So again, I would encourage colleagues' support.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Councilmember Young.
Director Darby, would this amendment prohibit charitable gaming that's as currently permitted under state law, such as a raffle?
Make sure you get close to your mic. It'd help if I turned it on.
I think it would.
Do you think it would prohibit some charitable games of chance that are already permitted under current state law?
It doesn't specifically carve that out.
Okay. Well, I will have to vote against this amendment then. Thank you.
Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. I, like Councilmember Young, have concerns about this amendment because it would exclude charitable or nonprofit organizations from being able to use the stadium and conduct those type of raffles and fundraisers at the stadium. I do have a question in regards to the gambling or the exemptions or exceptions that are in the term for this particular amendment as it relates to gambling. Is it, and if someone from the administration can answer, does the current term or the current terms in the agreement allow for regular fan gambling, whether it's on sports betting on their phone or anything like that? Does the term of this agreement already allow for that? Yes, so that will be conducted. So this is just specifically related to casino-style gambling, machines, and that kind of thing?
State law currently prohibits casinos. The Titans have made clear they have no interest in casinos being on the campus, but to the extent it allows, the Titans do have a vested interest and have in years past conducted the charitable raffles, charitable events, charitable games of chance. They have an interest in that continuing. To the extent that's caught up in sports betting and games of chance, that's one of the problems with the proposed amendment.
Thank you for that clarification. For those reasons, I have to vote against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember McConnell, did you seek recognition? Okay. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. How many charitable raffles have the Titans conducted on the premises in the last year before, historically?
I don't know if we have a member from the team here who has that number handy. I don't know the number.
Mr. Burks.
Hi, Burke Nihill, President, CEO of the Tennessee Titans. Every year, we have at least one 50-50 raffle. The way the state law is drafted today, there's been some consideration of changing it. Per location, you can have one per year, but it is one of, if not our primary foundation fundraiser. We've also explored the possibility because you can have more than one 50-50 raffle for different charities. So we've talked about actually extending the opportunity at our games to allow other charities in the city to do the same. And we hope and believe there will be a time when we can have a 50-50 raffle every game, and we would absolutely do that when that time arises.
Can you clarify what a 50-50 raffle
I'm sorry,
is, what that means?
It's a common raffle fundraiser in sports and entertainment where you can buy a $1, $2, $3 ticket, and ultimately just the pot is split between the winner of the winning raffle ticket, and then the other half is shared with a charity of some kind.
Okay, so how much do you all raise annually with your current 50-50 raffle allowed by state law?
Couldn't give you a very good number, but I mean there are stadiums around the NFL that regularly raise $800,000-$900,000 for charity every year in their stadiums, and there's something of a method to doing it every game, and it doesn't set up quite that way under the state law, and we're hoping that at some point we have that opportunity.
Okay, so are you all presently negotiating with the state so that you can implement more, like, I know my children's school used to have a beloved raffle annually, and they don't do that anymore, and it seems like pretty much no charities can do raffles anymore, like it's unnecessarily prohibitive and so forth, but you all with your lobbying, negotiating power are up there working on that. So why do you understand that to be so important to your business model and your community work? So, I mean, you all are opposed to this because you think as written, you might not be able to have one $800K fundraiser a year?
Well, we don't.
And or prospectively, you anticipate wanting to have a similar fundraiser every year. And so as such, you want us to vote against an amendment that would require the city council to approve whether or not there is a
That among
casino
other things, if
associated?
you read that amendment technically, a contest where a kid has an opportunity to kick a field goal before the game for a hat is a game of skill, for example, that would be prohibited as well. There's also the possibility that things evolve over the next 30 years. Someone mentioned it. It's absolutely true. Absolutely no interest. I can't imagine ever having interest in having slot machines and blackjack tables and that sort of thing set up. So the idea of the stadium becoming a casino is absolutely not something that is of concern or whatever. It's a very broad amendment. And so the 50-50 raffle is probably the easiest thing to point out that would be a problem from our perspective. But there are other things too that would technically get caught up within this today. And, 30 years is a long time. So there could be a 50-50 raffle was something that someone stumbled onto probably 10 years ago. And if we, didn't have the flexibility to think about those things that I don't think people are thinking of as a casino, that's the concern with the amendment.
Okay, I appreciate all that clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Any other discussion on this amendment? All right, seeing none, we are on Amendment 8. If you'll raise your hands if you are in favor of this amendment. See 2 in favor. Raise your hand if you are opposed to this amendment. Two in favor, 8 against, 2 not voting. All right. If you want to move 9, all right. Can we move amendment number 9? I hear a motion and a second. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
Number 9 would beef up the team guarantee. In my career, I've drafted, reviewed, negotiated, a couple hundred guarantees, and I've added language that is commercially reasonable, and I understand that the argument here is, well, commercially reasonable for non-NFL entities, but the NFL just doesn't allow this kind of language. And I would say that in a commercial deal, if you're not going to get protections like what I've put in the guarantee, then you need to do adequate due diligence about both ownership of assets and liens on the assets, which I understand, at least. No, we haven't gotten any information that sort of due diligence has been done, and I understand the cheat sheet from the lobbyists says to vote against this one, but I promise you this is commercially reasonable, and there hasn't any been evidence of due diligence been given to us that would give us a good reason to not have this language.
Any discussion on this amendment? Councilmember Gandel.
Thank you, Chair. If someone could speak to the, the merit of this particular amendment as it relates to the NFL, excuse me, and their practices and policies, would this be in line with NFL practices?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilmember. It's our understanding that the NFL has never approved these sorts of terms with respect to NFL teams across the country. Certainly would not approve it here, we anticipate, and therefore jeopardizes the entire deal in terms of NFL acceptance, and that's our primary concern.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Any other discussion? All right, we'll take the vote. All in favor, raise your hands. All right, any opposed? All opposed. Councilmember Collins, you raise your hand opposed? I get it, okay. You're for it? Okay. So we have 2 in favor. All right, let's take this vote again. All in favor of amendment number 9? Okay, I've got 2. All opposed, raise your hands. 4. 9. And we have one not voting, is that right? Okay, we got 2 in favor, 9 against, 1 not voting. All right, let's go to amendment number 10. Can we have a motion on that? All right, moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
I think the bottom line is the administration's in favor of this one. If anybody wants to hear more details on that, I'm happy to talk about it.
Any discussion on this amendment? Councilmember Radford.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not in budget and finance, so I'm not privy to what this is. So if Ms. Darby or the administration could just give a brief description.
Okay, Ms. Jameson, you'd like.
This is an amendment that says that if the state diverts or limits the revenues, it would not relieve Stadium Company or Stadco of its obligations under a, quote, changed circumstance. We do support this. It's also included in what is Amendment 1, approved earlier by this committee. It also says that the state's diversion or limitation of revenues doesn't constitute an event of default. And so we agreed with that as well and support this amendment.
Any others? Back to you, Councilmember Bradford.
All right, so just to make sure I understand, if the state changes how much money is put towards the debt service or anything, then this amendment means the Titans pick up any of that shortfall and it doesn't fall on the city?
It just does not constitute a default that lets the Titans out of their obligations.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mendez? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favor of this amendment? We'll just try to do a voice. Looks like we're unanimously. Okay, thank you. Amendment number 11, we'll move to that. You're a no. Swope's a no on the, on Amendment 10, I missed his vote. Okay, we got 11 in favor, 1 against on Amendment 10. We're now on Amendment 11. Can we move that amendment?
Go to 14.
What's that?
I'm going to skip 11, 12, and 13 and go to number 14.
All right, we'll go amendment number 14. Can we move that amendment? Moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez, on Amendment 14.
This is poking the chicken, playing chicken with the bear. I don't know what this one is.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, obviously, I disagree with the characterizations of poking the bear, as well as the attacks on my integrity by the council member over there who likes to do that. This one makes it so if the Sports Authority has its board restructured, that the rent would be changed to a market rate.
Any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, if you're in favor of this amendment, raise your hand. 3. All opposed, raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 in favor, 8 against, 1 not voting. All right. Move to Amendment 15. If we could move that amendment. Moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
This one goes hand in hand with the previous one. People should vote exactly the same way on this one as they did on the last one.
Any discussion on Amendment 15? All in favor? 3 in favor. All opposed? Yep. 7, or is that 8? Okay, 3 in favor, 7 against, 2 not voting. All right. Amendment 16. Can we move Amendment 16? Moved properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
This would amend the lease to give the council the opportunity to approve any changes to the lease in future years.
Any discussion on Amendment 16? Seeing none, all in favor? 2 in favor. All opposed? 4, 8 opposed. 2 in favor, 8 opposed, 2 not voting. Amendment 17. Can I get a motion? Moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks. And Chair, I'm not going to move 18 or 19, so this will be the last one.
Okay.
For me. And this is one that changes some relatively minor language that the administration is in favor of. So I imagine we'll have an 11-1 vote on this one.
Any discussion on amendment number 17? Seeing none, all in favor of this amendment? Any opposed? We have one opposed. Councilmember Schwartz. All right, we will not move 18 and 19. We have a late amendment by Councilmember Hertz. Councilmember Hertz, you're a member of the committee, so I'll go to you. And I'll cut your microphone on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd ask for the amendment be moved.
All right, moved and properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you. I basically just want to thank Councilmember Mendez for his efforts to highlight the importance of diversity and inclusion in the project of this size. And I just wanted to offer a small change to it, and also wanted to indicate that we made some other housekeeping changes to the language based on what Councilmember Allen said yesterday, in keeping with the same language of the updated disparity study. So I am asking that everyone approves this, and ensure that we focus on targeting specific areas and getting 25% or more. And if anything is 25% less, that the Titans will come back and report to us the efforts and the plans that they expect to achieve greater than the 25%. Is basically what the amendment is offering. Asking for a little bit more meat into it, pretty much what we were doing when we filed for the equal business opportunity legislation a couple of years ago.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurt. Any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? You in favor, Councilmember Swope? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, now we have the amendments which we have attached, and we are on the bill with recommended amendments. So any discussion on the bill with amendments? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill as amended? Any opposed? I have 3 opposed votes. Can I get those hands of those who are in support of this bill so we can offset that number? I've got 8, 9. So we have 9 in favor, 3 opposed, and 1 not voting. Okay, that concludes our agenda. Thank you all for attending. I appreciate this lively discussion, and that concludes our meeting. Thank you.